It's a good time of the year for a bake, a great user-upper of all that super-ripe, tail-end-of-the-season produce. A bake, for me, is also a delightful catch-all, because it lets me make something that pays tribute to, but doesn't quite follow, the tradition of another dish. Today's sweet bake, for example, is part friand and part clefaites. And with the pissaladière gratin, I've taken the classic flavor combination of pissaladière, the southern French take on pizza, with a caramelized onion and salted anchovy topping, and simplified it into a base-free bake. The result is like a cream-free dauphinoise, so, again, a dish that nods in two directions. As for the lamb bake, well, I'd normally call that a meatloaf, but that seems to put some people off from the start. What unites all these dishes, whatever you call them, is that they are perfectly suited to this time of year. That contrast between the crisp, brown surface and the soft filling beneath is like the kitchen's answer to how it feels outside, where it's increasingly crisp, before heading indoors to somewhere soft and cozy. It's the combination of those two things that makes autumn for me. Courgette, tomato and pesto grown. This works as a side dish to go with roast chicken or fried salmon, say, or as a main in its own right with some bread or rice alongside. Serves 6 as a main, 8 as a side. 60 grams basil leaves in stock, 60 grams blanched almonds, lightly toasted 120 grams parmesan, coarsely grated 70 milliliters olive oil, salt and black pepper, 8 courgettes, cut widthways on an angle into 0.5 cm thick rounds, 8 large plum tomatoes, cut into 0.5 cm thick rounds, 150 grams sliced sourdough, crusts left on, blitzed into chunky breadcrumbs. Heat the oven to 200 C 390 FGAs Mark 6. Put the basil, almonds and 80 grams parmesan in a food processor with 4 tablespoons of oil, a quarter teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of water. Blitz to a rough pesto, then tip into a large bowl. Add the courgettes and tomatoes, as well as half a teaspoon of salt and plenty of pepper, and mix to combine. Spoon the vegetables into a 30 cm by 20 cm high-sided baking dish, pressing them down as much as possible, then bake for 30 minutes. Remove from the oven, press the vegetables down again and baste with the juices, then bake for a further 15 minutes. Meanwhile, mix the breadcrumbs with the remaining 40 grams parmesan and 2 teaspoons of oil. Once the vegetables have been baking for 45 minutes, sprinkle the breadcrumb mix all over the top and bake for a final 15 minutes, until golden brown and crisp on top. Leave to rest for 5 minutes and serve warm. Pissaladière gratin. This would make a lovely side for a roast shoulder of lamb or a roast chicken, along with a crisp, green salad. Serves 4 to 6. 60 milliliters olive oil, 3 garlic cloves, peeled and crushed, 3 large onions, peeled and very finely sliced on a mandolin, ideally finely grated, zest of 1 lemon, 1½ teaspoons caraway seeds, 2½ tablespoons thyme leaves, finely chopped head salt and black pepper, 50 grams Kalamata olives, pitted and roughly chopped, 750 grams Desiree potatoes, unpeeled and cut into 3 mm thick slices again, on a mandolin, ideally 20 grams anchovies, roughly chopped, 350 milliliters vegetable stock. Heat the oven to 180 C 350 FGAs Mark 4. Heat 3 tablespoons of oil in a large sauté pan on a medium-high flame, then add the garlic, onions, lemon zest, caraway, 2 tablespoons of thyme and a quarter teaspoon of salt, and fry for 10 minutes, stirring often, until soft and golden. If the onions take on too much color, just turn down the heat. Off the heat, stir in the olives. Cover the base of a 20 cm by 30 cm baking dish with a quarter of the potato slices, overlapping them slightly, and season with a pinch of salt and some pepper. Top with a third of the onions, then dot a third of the anchovies evenly over that. Repeat the 3 layers twice more, and top with a final layer of potatoes. Pour the stock over the top, drizzle over the remaining tablespoon of oil, then cover tightly with foil and bake for 30 minutes. Remove the foil and bake for 40 minutes more, until the potato is cooked and the top is crisp and golden brown. Sprinkle over the remaining teaspoon and a half of thyme and leave to cool for 5 to 10 minutes before serving. Lamb bake with tahini sauce and grated tomatoes. You can serve this in 2 ways, just as it is, warm, as part of a main meal, or leave it to cool and set, then cut into thick slices. These are great piled into a sandwich or warm pita with the tahini sauce and tomato drizzled on top. Makes 1 loaf or 8 slices, to serve 4 to 8, 1 courgette, roughly chopped, 1 carrot, peeled and roughly chopped, 1 onion, peeled and roughly chopped, 3 tomatoes, 1 roughly chopped, 2 coarsely grated and skinned discarded, 500 grams lamb mince, at least 20% fat, 4 garlic cloves, peeled and crushed, 80 grams pecorino, finely grated, 50 grams fresh breadcrumbs, 2 large eggs, 2 tablespoons tomato paste, 2 teaspoons ground cumin, 2 teaspoons ground allspice, salt, 100 grams tahini paste, 3 teaspoons lemon juice, 2 teaspoons teaspoons olive oil, plus extra for greasing. Heat the oven to 190°C 375°F Mark 5 and grease it 20 cm by 10 cm loaf tin with a little oil. Put the courgette, carrot, onion and chopped tomato in the bowl of a food processor and blitz until it's of a similar consistency to the mince. Transfer to a sieve set over a bowl and squeeze out as much liquid as possible. Put the vegetables in a large bowl, add the lamb, 2 garlic cloves, all the pecorino, breadcrumbs, eggs, tomato paste and spices, and a teaspoon of salt, then use your hands to bring it all together until well combined. Transfer to the loaf tin, then put the tin in a high-sided baking dish. Carefully fill the dish with enough boiling water to come halfway up the sides of the tin, then bake for an hour and 10 minutes, until golden brown. While the meatloaf is cooking, make the sauces. Put the tahini, 1 garlic clove, 2 teaspoons of lemon juice and 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt in a medium bowl, then slowly whisk in 80 ml water until you have a smooth sauce. In a second bowl, mix the grated tomatoes with the remaining garlic, a teaspoon of lemon juice, the olive oil and 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Once the meatloaf is cooked, lift the loaf tin out of its water bath and leave to cool for 10 minutes. Pour off and discard any liquid and fat in the loaf tin, then, using a wide spatula, transfer the meatloaf to a platter. Pour 1/3 of the tahini sauce over the meatloaf, followed by 1/3 of the tomatoes. Serve warm, with the remaining sauces alongside, or leave to cool and cut into slices to serve in pita bread with the sauces drizzled on top. Plum and blackberry fry and bake. Yotam ottolenghi plum and blackberry fry and bake. Photograph Louise Hager for The Guardian. Food styling Emily Kidd. Prop styling Jennifer K. Fryans are light, moist almond cakes that are traditionally made as little individual cakes, but here I cook the batter in a single baking dish. Serve with custard, vanilla ice cream or a drizzle of cream. Serves 8. 200 grams blackberries, 4 ripe plums, stoned and cut into 1 cm wide wedges, 1 teaspoon vanilla essence, 60 grams castor sugar, 3 fresh bay leaves, 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 60 grams plain flour, 200 grams icing sugar, sifted 120 grams ground almonds, 1/8 of a teaspoon salt, 150 grams egg whites i.e. from 45 large eggs, 180 grams unsalted butter, melted and slightly cooled. Heat the oven to 190°C 375°F Mark 5. Put the fruit in a bowl with the vanilla essence, sugar, bay leaves and half the cinnamon, and set aside for 30 minutes. Don't be tempted to leave it sitting around for too much longer, otherwise the fruit will release too much juice. Put the flour, icing sugar, ground almonds, the remaining half teaspoon of cinnamon and salt in a second large bowl. Lightly whisk the egg whites for 30 seconds, so they just start to froth, then stir into the flour mix with the melted butter, until well combined. Tip the batter into a 20 cm by 30 cm baking dish and top with the fruit and juices. Bake for 35 minutes, then cover the dish with foil and bake for 10 minutes longer, until the batter is golden brown and the fruit bubbling. Leave to rest for 10 minutes before serving. Yotam ottolenghi is chef patron of Ottolenghi in Nopi in London.